All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Haley Elwood. I am the team reporter for the Los Angeles Chargers. And on behalf of the Chargers and the United Way, I'm so excited to welcome you all to our Character Playbook Live virtual event today, focusing on mental wellness. Now, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So with what goes on in our daily lives, as well as what we've been through this past year with the pandemic, we really just wanted to create a space today to talk about this very, very important topic. And I will say this, I know that sometimes when you hear mental health, it can sound kind of scary. It can sound like there's a stigma around it, but today we're breaking that down. We are focusing, like I said, on mental wellness, mental fitness, taking care of our mental health, as well as just how we would take care of our physical health. We're taking care of ourselves as a whole and having a really, really important conversation about that, because it doesn't mean that there have to be problems in our lives to focus on our mental wellness. We should just do it every day, just like we take care of our physical selves as well. And so to kind of explain that a little further, we're going to play a really important video right now from Chargers defensive end Joey Bosa. He talked about this with the NFL for this very special month. And here he is talking about some mental wellness strategies that help him both on and off the field.
For a long time, I was only focused on staying physically strong, and it was a couple off seasons ago. I had a tough few months getting back into training. How I was dealing with some pain working out, and I was kind of in a negative place. I was affecting the people around me negatively. I was snapping too quick on people, and it's something that I've always kind of been like that, and I've never really taken a step back and then realized that it's something that I need to work on. And after a tough 2 months, my mom asked me if I wanted to still go see that therapist that I talked about seeing, and I was about to say no, and I was like, yeah, you know what, I'll go see him anyway. And ever since then, I've been seeing him once a week and meditating, and it's been a huge benefit for me.
How good is Joey Bosa?
Meditation is exercise for my mind. I'm usually doing it every single morning and then in the afternoon. One of the things that I really like to meditate on is gratitude and compassion. You know, you can go through your days and you're having a tough day and you get down on yourself, and if you have that option to go to gratitude, you can take that breath, center yourself in the moment, and just helps you be a better person and appreciate things more. That breath is huge for me, because if I have a negative play, I can get really in my head and stuck on that play, which affects the rest of my game. Now, being able to take that breath, all right, I messed up, on to the next play. And when I'm focused in the moment, I'm going to be playing exactly how I want to.
All right. So loved hearing that from Joey. Just loved hearing about how he kind of recognized, though, that he wasn't feeling totally great. He ended up working on that. And some of those strategies that he used, even like breath work, just sort of breathing and breathing through it, is clearly helping him in his performance on the field. And also, I think that's something that we could do in our daily lives as well. I know that when I get ready to host events like this, I get very, very nervous. So breathing and kind of working through it helps me as well. But now, to kind of further this, we do know that there is a mental wellness basic course, which you can use as a starter's guide. But along with that, we have some very special guests joining us today, and it is time to hear from our friends on this panel. But here's the deal. We want you to get involved as well. So if you have any questions for them, submit those. We will get to them towards the end of this event. So we're going to ask our very special guests right now to turn on their cameras, and I'm going to call on them to introduce themselves. So we have Dr. Herb Martin, Joshua Palmer, and Chris Rumpf II. All of you, thank you so much for joining me today. Dr. Herb, I am going to throw it to you. Just give us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I really appreciate the invitation to join you, and I've had the fortune and opportunity to work with the Chargers for the past 16 years. Wonderful guys, and I have two wonderful guys with us today, our first year guys. I'm really excited to work with them and excited to be a part of what you're talking about today, because I firmly believe in it.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. Joshua, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself as well?
What's going on? Joshua Palmer. I played at the University of Tennessee. I was just in this recent draft class, and I'm excited to answer some questions and talk to you guys today. This is a huge topic that a lot of people really take for granted and don't really understand the power it has behind it. So excited to answer some questions.
Thanks, Joshua. And then last but not least, we have another rookie joining us, Chris.
What's up, everybody? Chris from the second. I played at Duke University. The main thing about today is just, sharing information, how we deal, with mental awareness in general. So everybody just get comfortable. We're going to have a good time. Ask any questions you have. We're going to answer them.
Love that. It is going to be a fun time today. So now it is time to get into our poll questions. We are going to throw up a couple different questions on the screen. I'm going to read them. So when they pop up, we want all of you to answer with what you would do in each situation. And there really are no bad answers. It's just sort of what feels right to you. So let's throw up question number 1, which is, what do you prefer to do when you have a bad day? Do you prefer to spend some time alone to recharge, or do you prefer to be with friends and talk about it? So we'll give you a moment to throw those answers up there, and we'll see what you guys have to say on this topic. So let's see what you guys like to do. While we wait though, Joshua, what do you prefer to do if you have a bad day?
I prefer to be with friends and talk about it. I had 3 roommates back in Tennessee with my frat brothers, and it was always a lot of laughter and a lot of joking around. So whenever I go back to the house and I had a bad day, usually I can vent about it, and then it will turn into jokes, and it'll turn to laughter and just making fun of the situations that were bad. Really just flushing it out.
Dr. Martin, how helpful is that when you have an opportunity to be able to talk to your friends or your family if you have a bad day? Oh, I believe you are on mute. So sorry.
I think it's extremely important. And I think that it's really at the core of mental health in many different ways in order to be able to share how you feel, be in touch with that. And also if you have someone that you can trust, as Josh just talked about, I think that's fantastic.
Absolutely. I'm not sure if we saw the poll results. Oh, here we go. So 67% of you believe that you guys like to spend some time alone to recharge. I'm kind of a little more of like a half and half. I kind of personally like to take a second, maybe gather my thoughts and then talk about it. Chris, what about you?
Yeah, I definitely, agree with you, Haley. I'm definitely half and half. There was many times, you had a bad practice and, you walking up to the locker room, you're not even speaking to anybody. And I think the main thing for me was having a support system of friends that recognize, I had a bad day. They can tell, I'm not in my normal state of mind. So, they'll always come up to me, start messing with me. I'll shove them off a little bit, but eventually I'll crack because, those are my homeboys, my friends, and my brothers. So, once I'm alone and, once they start messing with me, it's just, I'm back to normal.
Absolutely. All right, let's get to our next question, which is, as soon as it pops up here, what is your go-to method to relieve stress? So is it exercise? Is it talking to someone, which is kind of what we just talked about, journaling, or eating ice cream? Those are some great options. I'm kind of partial to that last one. Eating ice cream sort of always helps. But in terms of mental health, though, I'm sure, Dr. Martin, I'm sure you could kind of speak to this. All of these in their own kind of special ways might help you relieve stress, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think it sort of underscores the point that Josh made earlier, is that different people have different ways of responding to things, both Chris and Josh. And I think all of those things can be helpful. Eating ice cream can probably be problematic long term, but I think it really speaks to what fits for you, as long as it's not affecting your quality of life or someone else significant in your life. And so
that's a really good way of putting that.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. So the majority of you on this call say that exercise is your best way to relieve stress. Chris and Josh, I'll throw the both of you as professional athletes. How does exercise maybe help the physical side of you sort of connect with your mental side as well? Joshua, you could take this one first.
Well, as an athlete, we exercise all the time, like all day.
That's true. It is your job.
I don't think I exercise additionally to, relieve my stress. Usually I talk to specific people for specific reasons. So like I said, I like talking to different people, which are my friends I'll talk to for this. And if it's something else, I'll talk to with my dad. And just knowing who you can vent to for different situations, because, not everybody that you try to vent to will really understand what you're talking about. So is really having that one person that you have, just in your toolbox for you to use, who you can contact. But in terms of exercise, we exercise all the time, so I don't do that additionally to relieve stress. It really can get hard to, because honestly, it can really get hard to exercise, for me at least, while being stressed, because then I'm not performing the best I can, and then that could lead to injuries. And
That's true. It's a different situation for you guys. Chris, maybe when you were younger, was there ever a point where maybe you would sort of use a physical outlet to help with your mental health at all?
Yeah, just to talk about the exercise in general, I got to know a little bit about this because I went to do, so I'm supposed to be smart. But yeah, exercise definitely helps the body chemically because it releases serotonin, which naturally is, the feel good emotion that you have. So exercise for me is, sometimes you get out of everything you're thinking about. You're just focusing on one thing. You're pushing heavy weight, or you're grunting, and that naturally releases a lot of stress. So me personally, I use exercise, to relieve stress whenever I'm stressed out about anything.
See, there you have it. Going back to Dr. Martin, everyone's got different ways that they deal with stress. So thank you all for contributing to that conversation. And now it's time for a little deeper dive into our discussion on some mental wellness basics with our panelists. So the first topic is on having a positive mindset. And Josh, what does having a positive mindset mean to you?
having a positive mindset, it's a lot harder than people think it is. It's not easy to just say I'm gonna have a positive mindset, and it can look different for everybody. But I would say, just generally having a positive mindset is, there's ways you can get to thinking positively, which is controlling things you can control.
Mm-hmm.
And that relieve a lot of stress for me. Is sometimes you get focused on the things that you can't control, and then that will lead to you thinking negative thoughts. So how I tell myself to think positively, just focusing on the things I can control, which is how you prepare and how you respond. So that's how I approach positive thinking.
That's a really, really good tip. Chris, as for you, what are some strategies that you use in your daily lives to create a positive mindset for yourself?
Yeah, naturally, I've always been positive, because, my dad kind of helped me realize that, our minds are very, very powerful, regardless of what you think. So if you have a positive outlook or on anything, and you speak that stuff into existence, it's very infectious. And if you get a group of people thinking positive, I mean, what do you think momentum in the football game is? Is it a bunch of guys, who are going out on the field positively thinking, hey, we're going to stop them, or offense thinking, hey, we're about to score. And when that happens, you can see that kind of come into fruition of all that positive mindset thinking. And so what I like to do is go about life happy. I'm alive. I'm in the NFL, so I have nothing to complain about, because at the end of the day, there are a lot of things in this world that people are struggling with, and I don't have any place to complain about that. So that's how I kind of go about my positive mindset every day. I look at it as a blessing.
You are an optimist. You're a glass half full kind of guy. Certainly sounds that way. Dr. Martin, as for you, I think some of us, though, we have bad days, and it can be kind of challenging to stay positive on certain days. But as for you, what have you used in your work with NFL players to help cultivate positive mindsets for themselves, both on and off the field? Oh, you are muted again.
Sorry, there are a number of ways that I think professional athletes can maintain a positive mindset. First of all, and I think both you guys did a great job of talking about what you say to yourself. So self-talk is extremely important. So learning how to monitor your self-talk is extremely important. So one of the ways that you can do that is by examining one of the things I talk about is what ifs, and sometimes writing down what ifs. If I go down this road, what if, and what will happen if I do that? So if you find yourself in the negative category, then you can begin to challenge that. So one of the things I talk about is challenging thoughts or negative thoughts or even irrational thoughts. And so let's say, for example, if you miss a catch, Joshua, I would say, well, Josh, you missed that catch. But have you ever thought about all the catches that you made that brought you here? And more importantly, what did you learn from that? What did you learn from that experience? And just spending a very short amount of time focusing on that, but more importantly, to focus on what you need to do or what you desire to do. And then using imagery, for example, imagining yourself making that catch. And sometimes we can do that by looking at old film. There's a ton of film on both of you guys that reflects all of the positive things that you've done over time. And then practicing that over and over so that it becomes just like a recording in your mind. So, I mean, those are some of the kinds of things that I've taught to athletes, you know, pro, collegiate, high school. And because we all have the capacity to imagine, we all have the capacity to remind ourselves, we just have to be intentional about it.
I think that's really interesting too, because we have a lot of middle school and high school students on this call today. And I think whether you're an athlete or not, that example you gave with Josh, you know, maybe not making a catch, that could be like, maybe you didn't do so well on a test that you had to take. And maybe you could think back to the times of, well, I did well on the last one, and then sort of tweak, you know, maybe like you said, watch film, maybe it goes back to studying or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, for whether I love the example you mentioned, Haley. Yeah, if you get stuck, I mean, and one of the things, for example, and I would say to everybody on this Zoom, look at your watch. If you have a watch, and I know sometimes folks don't wear watches anymore, but one of the things that I tell players is to imagine a watch. And I would ask anybody on the Zoom, have you ever seen a watch go this way? You know, and it doesn't. So, you know, all we have is right now, right? Like here and now, and the possibility for the future. The possibility for the future is predicated on what you're doing right now. So if you're thinking positively and you're preparing yourself for the future, you're more likely to have a favorable outcome.
That's really, really great advice. Thank you for that. All right, our next topic focuses on healthy habits. And Joshua, I know you talked a lot about maybe finding your sort of tribe of people that you like to connect with, but what are some other healthy habits that you've created and how they've supported your own mental health and wellness?
Well, Joey mentioned a couple of them in this video, but definitely yoga, meditation every morning, just stretching, you know. I don't go on my phone, you know, the first hour, 2 hours, hour and a half of my day, I don't go on my phone. You know, I try to stay away from social media for that hour, you know, because a lot of different people saying a lot of different things. You know, you just want to be with yourself for that 1 hour when you wake up in the morning. But that's just the routine I've developed for the past year now. So it's definitely finding a routine that helps you, because it's different for everybody. But that was just what I do, especially, and the huge thing is the meditation. You know, it's not as easy as people think in terms of being able to cut and paste. You know, how I meditate is definitely going to be different from how Joey Bosa meditates. You know, just different things you think about. He was talking about gratitude, you know, and I meditate on different things. You know, I meditate about my day, about what I learned the day before, about what I can implement into the day I am, to where my feet are right now. So it's just a lot of things that, you know, it's a lot of self-reflecting and knowing what works for you, which, you know, it takes time. You know, it's not going to come in one day. It's going to come over a span of things. It took me about 2 months just to learn how I can meditate, you know. So, but those are some of the things that I do.
Those are really great strategies. And I love that you said too, that it could take time, because I think sometimes we want to find that quick fix, maybe that like, oh, let's, you know, log on to say one of those apps like Calm or something like that. And maybe right away it feels kind of weird, but like you said, it's a process. And I really enjoyed that you shared that. So thank you for that. Now, Chris, as we said, we have middle schoolers and high school students on this call. So if you could go back, how would you teach your middle or high school self to create healthy habits? And maybe you did too.
Yeah, definitely. Just find a routine that fits you. You know, whether it's, you know, you go to school, and then after school, let's say you have practice, and after you're done with all that stuff, go home and, you know, take a shower, take a decompression break. For me, I love video games. I'm a big video game player. Anybody watching this, you know, you can see me in any game. I will beat you. But anyway, that's besides the point. Yeah, so for me, it's being able to go home and I'll, you know, play games for a couple of hours, decompress, and then, you know, get back started, you know, with homework or whatever it is. That way, I knock that out, and then I have the rest of the night to relax and get my mind right on what I need to do better that day to be a better person for not my family, my friends, anybody that has supported me. So that was kind of my routine that I started in elementary, middle school. I still carry it to this day. I'm pretty sure after this Zoom call, I'm gonna hop on the game and decompress a little bit more.
Take a break. We have a long weekend coming up, so that sounds great. I do love, though, that we had a couple different options there. Another one, I did actually a character playbook a year ago with linebacker Kenneth Murray, who's a former first-round pick of the Chargers. He's now going to be in his second season. He talked about journaling, and that was an option I know that was on one of those poll questions, but he said that he likes to journal, write his thoughts out, that's a really healthy habit. So whether it's like we mentioned, Josh with meditation, Chris with playing video games, Kenneth with journaling, there's so many different outlets of creating healthy habits and outlets that you guys could start now. And like these guys, they're now in their professional life and they still carry those with them. So our next topic is on positive relationships. And Josh, I know you touched on this a little bit earlier, but 2020 was a really, really, really challenging year for a lot of people. And we're still in this pandemic. We're hopefully kind of getting out of it. And things are a lot better currently now than they were in May of last year. But how did you stay connected to friends and family during the pandemic?
Group chats, sometimes just sparking a conversation or an argument in the group chat. Just have
just guys.
You guys have interact with each other. Zoom, definitely, obviously with my team and stuff, we had to do Zoom meetings, but there's different ways you could go on Xbox or PS4 or PS5 and just have your mic on it and talk to guys that are playing the games. Picking up the phone and calling, which is not something that we do a lot nowadays. A lot of it is texting, but even just FaceTiming. I had something that if you think of the person, just FaceTime them. It won't be that hard. It won't take that long. But that's how I try to stay in contact with people during this whole pandemic where everything was online.
I kind of like that because even though we were distant, a lot of us had to be socially distant from friends and family. That in a weird way, I feel like brought us together even a little closer. Like you said, being able to hop on a FaceTime where maybe even a year before that, we wouldn't normally FaceTime someone, but being able to get that interaction is probably super, super helpful. So thank you. Chris, there are, different friendships that we have, different relationships that we have growing up. Some are positive, some are negative. How can students really tell maybe who's in their corner or if that relationship is a negative one?
Yeah, definitely. Just over my life, I've definitely experienced both. What I can say based off those experiences, positive people will make you feel positive and cared for. Their actions definitely speak louder than words. And also, we all fight with our family. And so when you're mad at somebody and, they say something when they're mad, those words are their true feelings of how they feel towards you. So if you have somebody, who's always putting you down or, hating on you, that's negativity. You don't need that in your life. And then also just being able to differentiate a friend that's actually a genuine friend and somebody who's just there because of who you are or where you're going to be. Especially in this career path that we're in now, it was very important to me to kind of, before I even got here, get a circle of people and look back at their, previous experiences to tell the difference between my genuine friends and then people who just want something from me.
Absolutely. Dr. Martin, I'll throw to you. I do have a question for you, but I actually want you to kind of maybe give your 2 cents as to what Josh and Chris both had to say on both of those topics in terms of just like staying connected to friends and family and then sort of figuring out different positive or negative relationships.
Well, I have to say, I'm listening to these guys and I'm thinking about the enormous wisdom that they have that I'm blown away because I really sincerely mean this because they've done a lot of inward work, if work, we use that term, but they've done a lot of self-reflection that has allowed them to experiment with things that have worked and things that may not have worked. And I would recommend everybody, and particularly middle schoolers and high schoolers, to begin to really do an inventory of how do you feel? How do you feel about this person? Do you trust them fundamentally? And why do you trust them? What is it that they do that allows you to feel safe? And so that requires that sometimes we do have to remove ourselves from social media. That does, and I have to remind my daughter, please, let's stay off the phone so we can have this conversation. So it's really about reconnecting in the real way with people in a real way. So I love your answers, man. And I think that's very instructional for people of all ages. Yeah.
So to piggyback off of that, as I kind of said, we're sort of trending back to a little more normalcy, a little more of what we kind of know is normal. And that means reconnecting with people in our lives. So what are some strategies for making meaningful connections as we start to go back to school in a post-COVID kind of world?
That's a great question. I think it's really about thinking about where we were before in some ways, what made you feel good, where you felt safe, the people, the teachers, the students that you felt most comfortable with, knowing at the same time there may be change. But I want to go back to what you said about Ken Murray. Sometimes writing down what your concerns and fears are, because when you go back, a lot of times it's fear of the unknown. Am I going to still have the same relationship? Am I still going to be validated the same way? Am I going to be recognized the same? Recognize that change is a very natural part of life. That's what we've been all dealing with. Write those concerns down, because sometimes when you write them down, they don't seem so daunting, so tough, so hard, or, like a mountain that you can't. And then, jot down and prioritize the ones that you're most concerned about. And if you're very concerned, find someone like Chris or Josh or one of your friends or someone that you trust to talk to. A lot of times I just want to encourage the students, student athletes on the line, talk to your coaches, talk to the people that have been mentors in your lives, talk to your parents, because frankly, parents get afraid too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, but we're all human and we're all dealing with these kinds of pressures that have been unprecedented in our lives. So.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. So
Sure.
we have one more topic we're going to get to. I know I have some questions that have come through to me already, which is great, but don't forget, submit your questions, because after this last chunk, we're going to get to those. So send those in. But our last topic is on emotional awareness. And so Chris, why is it important to not suppress your emotions, to not keep them bottled up?
Yeah, just not keeping it bottled up. I mean, if you keep it bottled up, it's like you put a Mento in a Coke bottle and turn it and twist the cap. I mean, eventually it's going to explode. So that's kind of how you deal with emotions. You can't keep it bottled up. And as a man, we're always kind of taught, from a very young age, we're men, don't show emotion, don't cry, anything. That's not the case at all. For me, I'll be open with everybody. For me personally, last season was very tough for me at Duke. I mean, we went 2-9. I was on the phone with my mom because I hate losing. I'm a winner. I've always been a winner. And I've called my mom crying after a game because I'm trying my best. I don't know what to do. And so, just me being open with my emotions helped me get through that season. And then having my support system like my mom, being there to talk with me, and give me advice, to continue to push and get better, and everything's gonna work out in the end, was very important for me last year, especially during the year where we didn't have fans. Our families didn't even get to see any of our games in person, so that was very important.
So I like, though, that you referenced what Dr. Martin said. Talk to your parents. You did, and that was a really good resource for you. So then, Josh, last question for you from me. How do you control your emotions when you are in a game to stay focused on the job that you have to do?
I have a routine for that as well.
Okay.
Right before I step on any field, regardless of what I'm doing, whether I'm training, whether I'm working out, whether we're in walkthroughs, whether it's just practice. I go in every situation telling myself just to be where my feet are. Focus on the things you can control, which is your preparation and how you respond, because the outcome will take care of itself, whether it's the outcome you want or the outcome you didn't want. It all reverts back to how you prepared and how you respond to whether it went your way or it didn't go your way. One thing I told myself on the field a lot was, you can't be perfect, but you want to strive for perfection. That was a hard thing for me to accept, you know, the last 2 years, just learning how to accept not being perfect, because, you know, as athletes, we put in so much work and you expect to be perfect. You expect everything to go exactly the way you trained. And sometimes you can get too much into your head where you're not thinking straight, or you're getting too down on yourself. And that's when you start to think negative thoughts like, am I not good enough? Am I not putting in enough work? You know, just letting things happen naturally. And is that it? I think, yeah. I think that's it. But that's just something I tell myself. Oh, and the play doesn't care who makes it. You know, it was a quote I heard from Deion Sanders.
Okay.
You know, the play doesn't care who makes it. So it takes a lot of pressure off your shoulders, thinking that you have to be the one to make every play. You know, just, you know, it doesn't matter who's going to make the play. You know, when your time comes, it's going to come. Just let everything happen naturally, and just, like I said, focus on what you can.
I love that. And to kind of piggyback off of that, the Chargers had a former coach, Marty Schottenheimer. And when it came to how he coached guys on the field, he would always say, one play at a time. It was always one play at a time. And when I spoke with guys, he recently passed away just a few months ago. When I spoke to some former Chargers players about what that meant to them, they use that now in their daily lives, because it kind of goes back to what Herb had said earlier. You can't really focus on what comes next if it hasn't happened yet. So while we are always kind of moving forward, like you, Josh, it's, hey, I'm going to just kind of control what I can control, get this play, make it happen. And we're just going to go one play at a time. Herb, I will ask you, do you have any thoughts just on sort of emotions and emotional wellness and emotional fitness?
Well, I think we've come to the conclusion that it's certainly as important as our physical health. And I think that we have to practice, prepare, and address this in the same way that we do our physical health. And we have to do it with the same vigor and intensity and consistency in order to be able to manage, you know, the ups and downs of football, basketball, whatever the sport may be, as well as life.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think the more that you practice it, it's just like lifting weights, you'll get stronger, but you have to be intentional. And I used that word a little bit earlier. That means that you have to say, I'm going to take out at least a half an hour to think about what's important to me in my life. I'm going to take out a half an hour to deal with any challenges that I have in my life. I'm going to take, you know what I mean? So you have to look at your life in a way. And I often say this to players and people, how do you want to live your life? You know, because football is a part of your life, but how do you want to live your life? Football is a part of that bigger picture. So you have to really plan for that, as well as have audibles for things when they don't go well. Because we're going to all have audibles. I might have one today. Who knows?
It's totally true. You never know. Thank you guys for that discussion. It is now time to get some of the questions that you on this call have submitted. I know Chris is super excited about this. So the first one, though, I am going to pose to both Chris and Josh. And it is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how nervous are you before you play a game? And Josh, I know you just kind of talked about your pregame routine. So Chris, I'll let you kind of start. And then Josh, you can add anything you want after.
Yeah, for me personally, I'm really not that nervous. My little pregame routine is, you know, I'm locked in. I'm ready to, you know, go hit somebody. You know, I have the headphones on, I'm listening to music. I'm hyped. Like nobody messes with me. Like I'm in my locker. I'm bumping whatever I'm listening to. And so that kind of gets my mindset, you know, away from, oh shoot, I gotta play who against him or this team. It's more of a mindset, hey, I don't care who we're playing. I'm going to go out there and dominate. I know what I'm capable of. And I think that helps take away that stress, because it reminds yourself that, hey, I've made it to this level. Or, you know, I'm in middle school, you know, I'm still a very good player. I have the athletic ability to do anything that anybody else can do. And so that kind of takes away from that stress, and more, it builds your confidence more.
Josh, I'll kind of piggyback off of that and just say, for you now as an NFL player, how does maybe that pregame routine, those things that you sort of, before you step out on the field, that you've done throughout your career now, how will that benefit you as you embark on this next chapter?
Well, two things, you know, in college, how I prepared for games was I didn't really look at who I was going up against. I looked at more so what I was going up against. And, you know, that can vary between different techniques, you know, how different guys play. Coach taught me my first year is that to a certain extent, who you go up against in terms of the technique, all that is gonna be around the same. A lot of guys just lose focus on who they're going up against instead of attacking certain things of what they could pick at. So that's just how I prepare. Just I've been preparing in college, and that's what I'm going to bring into the NFL is just preparing that way. And in terms of the original question of being nervous, I think it's 100% fine, okay to be nervous. Don't let anybody tell you that if you're nervous, you're scared. Because the moment you deny the fact that you're nervous is when your performance level drops. Being nervous means that you care. And usually after that first play, your nervousness is gone because now your body has realized that, oh, this is normal. It's just football. But don't ever be afraid to be nervous. So don't let anybody ever tell you that you can't be nervous because I'm nervous before every game. And the game and the games where I try to tell myself I'm not nervous is when I play my worst, because then you start to lose focus on what's important. You don't look the ball all the way in, or you think the plays better than you do because you feel like you don't have to worry about anything. So I would say it's 100% okay to be nervous in any situation.
That's really, really good advice. And I will say this, like I mentioned before I get on this call, I have nerves and I kind of like breathe through it. And I was listening to a podcast or an interview. If any of you watch NFL games, Erin Andrews, who has been a sideline reporter for years, one of the best in the business. She does NFL on Fox games. She talks about regardless if it's week 6 or the Super Bowl, she still gets nervous before her first hit. But just like Josh, just like you said, once that first play is in there, she said, once I do my first hit, I'm okay. And that's something that I can relate to, even being much less experienced than she is in this business. When I do our preseason sideline reporting, I am so nervous before that first hit. But then once it's through, it's like, okay, it's just like any other game. We're going to do this. And whether that's playing football, being a reporter, getting through your own daily lives in school, I think that the point that you made of how it means you care is really, really important as well. So another question for the two of you. You're both rookies. Congratulations. Welcome to the NFL, as we said. But being a rookie on a new team in a new city, very big one, such as Los Angeles, how have you been able to use maybe some of the veterans on this team to help you adjust to this new life? And Herb, I'm going to have these guys answer first, and then maybe you can chime in on how you help as well. So Josh or Chris, whoever wants to start. I think Josh, he's pointing to you.
Yeah, I'll start. The vets are just now getting back. We've been there, 2 weeks before them. So we're slowly starting to, integrate together and communicate with each other. And, I think as time goes on, we will start to get closer and they will start to show us things. But right now, we're just kind of focusing on our practices. But I can say that the veterans are a huge help in practices, just telling us things we need to work on, the things that we need to focus on. I'd say we haven't been here long enough yet for them to show us around, take us out. One thing that's huge the difference between college and the NFL is that everybody has their own families you need to go back home to. So we have a lot more free time, but a lot of that free time they want to spend with their families and things of that nature. So, eventually as the season progresses and the season goes on, we will start to get closer and, do a lot of certain things. But Keenan Allen, invited us over the other day and we just had a barbecue at his house. So
that's awesome.
So slowly but surely, we're, a bond is getting tighter.
That's awesome. Chris, what about you?
I haven't gotten invited to anybody's house, so I'm going to talk to my vets and on the defensive side after this. But I think unlike Josh, for me, I've communicated with a lot of the defensive line, just the defensive players in general. The vets have been very helpful for me because I'm able to just pick their mind like, hey man, it's like, where's the best place to live? The thing about this team that I love is that none of the vets are big time, no matter what contract they're in, how much money or how long they've been in the league. they're regular guys at the end of the day. And I really appreciate that because I can go, to Christian Covington and talk to him about, where I need to live or how do I adjust. And at the same time, we're talking about, what video games we're playing on the side or what anime show we're about to watch next. I'm a big anime fan. So, yeah, so being able just to pick their brain and them being open enough and genuine enough to answer my questions is been a big help. And not only in getting adjusted to a new city away from home, but being able to adjust to the NFL in general.
That's great. Joshua Kelly, another big anime guy. So I don't know if you knew that, but there's a vet for you. Yep, there you go.
Me and Josh are real cool already, too.
Fantastic. Perfect. See, those are those bonds. And then Dr. Martin, how does sort of your role maybe help with these guys in their transition now to life as professional football players?
Well, for the rookies, we have a rookie class. It's actually called the Rookie Readiness Program, which, began when they hit the ground, and that'll go throughout the season. And so Arthur Hightower, to whom is very instrumental in making sure that the players go through an adjustment phase. We have all kinds of programs and courses that are specifically designed to sort of normalize this adjustment period. But I really love what you guys are saying, and what I really like, and I think it's a reflection of the Charger culture, where the veteran players are saying, hey, come on over to the house. Let's all, the receivers get the defensive line guys. And by the way, Chris, I'm going to take you out and make sure that you're not out there in isolation. But I think that we make a very concerted effort to get all the guys together. And again, it starts with the top and the culture. And guys don't big time. And so specifically, what does that mean? And my role and what I do is really, I try to make sure that, if there's a senior player, if I see Keenan, hey man, did you get with Josh? I'm so the old guy telling young people what to do around there, but it's very intentional around creating safety. And that's what we do. That's what I believe our coaches are doing. And that's really part of what we do in general. So.
That's great. All right. Question for both of our players on this call. As we've talked about many times, we have middle school students here, high school students here, but the next phase for them is college. So for both of you, obviously you played football in college, but why is the education part of college so important?
I didn't know who was going to go, but yeah. Definitely the education part is huge. Just being able to know that, well, for me, I graduated. So I know I have, if this does not work out, I have a couch or I have a net I can fall into of connections. I can fall back on my degree and, being able to go out into the job world and know that I'm comfortable, I'm educated enough to, to handle anything. And so that was the main thing about not only my decision, to go to Duke, but in college in general, is just being able to have that plan B. Because one day, football is not a sport you can play for the rest of your life. Tom Brady is trying to, counteract that, but I don't think that's even he's not going to win that battle. So eventually the ball's going at the air's going to go out the ball. You need to have a plan for after football, and that education helps you make that plan.
Joshua, what about you?
Yeah, I don't want to, I don't want to repeat what Chris said, but I could tie the question into what you asked earlier about relationships. And I feel like going to college or going to university is another opportunity for you to create relationships. And, as this world continues to grow and, a lot more people are doing a lot more different things. Nowadays, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Mm. And in college, that will prepare you for the what you know, but at the same time, it's who you know and the connections that you're able to make. Because like Chris said, football's not going to last forever, but I know the relationships that I made at Tennessee, I'm going to have them after football. And, when you're able to have those relationships with key people in different places and to be able to create that line of communication, that will be there for when football is over. And, going to university or going to college is definitely a place where your net could grow in terms of who you know and those relationships that you can make with people. And football also helps with that. That just makes everything bigger, and you're able to create even more relationships. I have so many people in my context, I never imagined I would ever know. But football put me in that position, and college and university put me in that position to be able to create those relationships, and that's something to fall back upon.
That was really, really great advice from both of you. Oh, Chris, go for it.
And I just want to say one more thing. I know we have a lot of athletes. Division I is not like, just because you don't go D1 does not mean you're not going to get a quality education. Education is education at the end of the day, whether it be community college, D3, D2, D1, it doesn't matter. Those connections are still going to be there, and you still have a degree to fall back on. So don't get caught up in trying to get to an Alabama, a Clemson, or Florida, or whatever. Take what somebody is actually genuinely caring for you, go there and improve your life from there.
Great answer.
That's a really great answer. Herb, I'm going to end it with you on this final question, and it is, how should students who maybe struggled academically during the pandemic, we know there was virtual school, it was challenging for many, but how can they recover from this so that they can eventually, get back to using those academic skills, both in sports and in college as well?
Help me to understand this question a little bit, Haley.
So I think what they're trying to say is, maybe if the virtual time was really difficult, maybe it's kind of getting back to sort of what we talked about earlier a little bit, getting back to the classroom, getting back to real life. And if maybe this time being home was hard, what are some transitions or some easy ways, I guess I should say, to transition back to that classroom setting or going back to practices with your friends on the field?
So that's a great question. So one of the things that I think is really important that we've actually alluded to before is writing down what are your concerns, because underlying this is the fear that something's changed or somehow I won't make that adjustment. So I think writing down what are your so these are specific steps I would take. Write down what are your concerns. What are the things that you're concerned about going back to your school? Confer with your teacher or your administrator about those questions that you may have. The key here is that the underlying issue is really the fear that somehow that you won't make that adjustment, right? So you want to eliminate that adjustment by asking questions and really dealing with the concerns. The second thing I would say is to get educated about what it means, to go back, so that means you have to be intentional and you have to be purposeful. And even for younger folks that are in middle school, is to talk to your parents or talk to your teachers, because they're going to have information from the CDC and not all these other crazy sources about going to school and what that's like. So you want to get trusted information so that you can make a determination about what it's going to be like going to school. And then the last thing to do is to think about, as we talked about before, is talking with the people that you trust. It might be a parent, might be a grandparent, and again, it might be a teacher. But realize that all of us are going to have some, just as you talked about, Haley, we're going to have some apprehension about something that seems new. And until we get in there, we don't know what it's going to be like, but you certainly can ask questions ahead of time to sort of eliminate some of the fear and concerns you might have. So
that was a great answer to that question. Thank you, Dr. Martin. And thanks to all of you for submitting those questions as well. I also want to give a big shout out. I believe it's Acacia Middle School. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that. In Southern California, their entire class is on our call, huge Chargers fans. So thank you guys for participating with us today and joining us. And we wanted to remind you all as we close that today really is just a great first step in this conversation about mental wellness, but it's not the end. So before we go, I'm going to ask our panelists just to maybe share one final piece of advice that they have about being proactive with mental wellness or how they could support their friends or family as well. Dr. Martin, I know you gave a lot of it, but what's one more thing that you got that you could share with us?
Again, I think asking yourself, how do you want to live your life? I think that's a question that we all have to ask, whether we're in middle school or in high school, getting ready to go to college. And that really starts with self-exploration. I think you guys talked about it really well. So taking out time and making that a priority to ask questions about, how do I want to live? What am I doing? Where are my supports? Where are the resources that are available to them, and utilizing them?
That's great. Josh, what about you? What's a final piece of advice that maybe you would want to share?
Don't be afraid to ask for help,
Yep.
and as I was just thinking about it, and just look at all the things that you may ask help for, or think about, like, for example, you train every day. What is that? A form of help. Someone's helping you get better. playing the game, looking at the tutorial, searching, going on YouTube, looking up how to beat this level, you're asking for help. So don't be afraid to ask for help for the things that actually really matter, and which is your mental health. Because without this, the rest of this can't function properly. So
Excellent.
don't be afraid to ask for help when it comes to mental health.
That's a great piece. And then Chris, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I was definitely going to say what Josh says. Definitely don't be afraid to ask for help. You know, there's this stigma or whatever, like you ask for help, you're weak-minded. No, I asked for help. Dr. Martin's been great since I've been a rookie. And I ask him for help anytime I need. I know he's going to be there for me. So going off of that, I'm not going to say what Josh said because I definitely agree with that. That's one most important thing is don't be afraid to ask for help, but also find a great support system. You know, it doesn't have to be big. It could be one person, but just find that one body that you trust with your heart that you can, you know, call, you know, late at night if you're struggling or you need some advice or anything. Just have a good support system to help you, you know, go through life.
That's perfect. Those were all great pieces of advice. Three of you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And now as a follow-up, everyone who is on this call, you will be receiving a recording of this event and also a scorecard that you can complete to continue to build out your mental strength and mental wellness. Be sure to keep an eye out for that. Thank you to our amazing guests, Chris, Josh, Dr. Martin. We appreciate you being on here.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you to the United Way for their help. And on behalf of the Los Angeles Chargers, thanks to all of you for attending today. We hope you had a great time. Thank you for being part of this very important conversation with us. Have a really safe and fun holiday weekend, everyone. Take care.
All right.